Hmm, Permanent address. Do you have one? If I ask you this question in India, it almost always translates to, do you own a house? Because somewhere along the way, identity stopped being about who you are and quietly became about where you can be located on paper. If you don't have one, you can give your rental address, but only if you've stayed there long enough to prove you're not temporary. And even if that doesn't qualify, you reach further back to a hometown address that may no longer have voices, only locked doors and fading memories, yet it still counts because something about it once belonged to you. That is how deeply this idea runs. Owning a house is no longer just a dream. It is a milestone that sits heavily on the shoulders of every middle-class life. A box that must be ticked before time runs out. And so it begins early. With the first salary, with careful budgeting between rising fuel prices and shrinking savings. With silent calculations made over cups of tea and long train rides home. You save, you sacrifice, you postpone living for a future that promises stability. Because one day you tell yourself you will have a permanent address. Welcome to The Sound of a Quiet Voice, episode 29, Permanent Address. And this week's story, The House That Was Never Lived In by our very own anonymous writer, is about what happens when that address is finally achieved. But life somehow never arrives there. So, let's begin the story.
A little thought, a tiny whisper. Did you hear it yet? A ripple forming, quietly brave, growing gently into a wave. That's the sound of a quiet voice.
The House That Was Never Lived In by the anonymous writer. Lakshmi Ammal had always imagined her life in simple, tangible frames. Not in grand ambitions or extravagant desires, but in moments she could almost touch. A house that felt warm even before you entered it, and voices that filled every room long after the lights were turned off. That was all she wanted. And in time, she got half of it perfectly. The house stood at the far corner of a quiet street where the road curved just enough to make it noticeable to every passerby. Its freshly painted walls caught the morning sun in soft gold, while the polished tiles inside reflected every footstep like a mirror that had been carefully wiped off imperfections. The heavy teakwood doors opened with a quiet authority, and the balcony on the first floor stretched out just enough to capture the evening breeze, carrying with it the distant sounds of vendors, children, and life happening elsewhere. People often slowed down when they passed it. Some would pause, tilt their heads slightly, and say with a hint of admiration, "Such a beautiful house." Lakshmi would stand by the window or the gate, offering a polite smile in return. She never corrected them because they were right. It was beautiful. It just didn't feel lived in. Raghavan, her husband, was a man who carried the future like a responsibility he could never set down. He was never careless, never idle, always moving, always planning, always calculating what came next. Just a few more years, he would say, loosening his tie as he stepped in late, his voice carrying the exhaustion of long days and longer expectations. Let me settle everything first. At first, it was the home loan that needed attention. Every EMI paid with precision and discipline. Then came the promotions, opportunities that demanded more hours, more presence at work and less at home. Then investments, carefully chosen and endlessly monitored, followed by conversations about securing the future, a future that always seemed just slightly out of reach. There was always something ahead that needed fixing before life could be lived fully. And slowly, almost invisibly, the present began to slip through their hands. Lakshmi adjusted quietly. The dining table that was once set for two, with small conversations and shared glances, slowly lost its purpose. She began eating earlier, finishing her meals in the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the distant noise of the street outside. Raghavan would eat later, sometimes reheating what had gone cold, sometimes skipping it altogether, his mind too occupied to notice. Their conversations shortened, from stories to updates, from updates to nods, from nods to silence. And over time, that silence stopped feeling unusual. It became the background of their lives. Years passed, not with dramatic changes, but with quiet upgrades. A larger television replaced the older one, its screen brighter, sharper, louder. A new sofa arrived, softer and more inviting, though it rarely held anyone long enough to matter. The kitchen was remodeled into a sleek, modular space where everything had its place, except the warmth that once made it feel alive. The house improved in every visible way, but the distance between two people inside it grew in ways no one could see. One evening, as the monsoon settled over the city with an intensity that blurred the streets and drowned out every other sound, the power went out without warning. The house, which had always relied on light to define its beauty, suddenly fell into darkness. No television flickered, no appliances hummed, no artificial glow softened the corners. For the first time in years, the house stood exactly as it was. Silent, still, and stripped of distraction. Raghavan walked into the hall, holding a single candle that flickered uncertainly with every movement. Lakshmi was already there, seated on the edge of the sofa, her face half lit, half hidden. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, not as husband and wife, not even as companions, but as two people who had somehow forgotten how to exist in the same space without something else filling the gap between them. Do you remember? Lakshmi began, her voice soft but steady. How we used to sit like this in that small rented house? Raghavan let out a faint breath that almost turned into a smile. That house leaked every time it rained, he said, shaking his head slightly. Lakshmi's eyes warmed with memory. Yes, The water would drip right into that steel bucket near the window, she said, her voice carrying a quiet nostalgia. And somehow we never noticed the rain outside. She looked at him, holding his gaze just a second longer, because we were too busy talking. The silence that followed was different. It didn't feel empty, it felt heavy, as though it carried years of conversations that had been postponed, words that had been swallowed, moments that had quietly passed without being lived. Lakshmi rose slowly and walked toward the cupboard, her footsteps soft against the floor. When she returned, she held a small steel box, its edges slightly worn, its lid opening with a familiar click. Inside lay fragments of a life they had once lived more fully. Old bus tickets, their ink fading but still legible, a photograph slightly bent at the corners, capturing a younger version of themselves, closer, lighter, unaware of what lay ahead, and a folded piece of paper. Raghavan picked it up carefully. He didn't need to read it to recognize it. It was his handwriting. "One day I'll build you a big house." He looked up slowly, his eyes moving across the room, taking in the walls, the furniture, the carefully curated perfection that surrounded them. He had done it. Every promise fulfilled, every plan executed. And yet, something inside him shifted uncomfortably, because in chasing the outcome, he had lost the reason behind it. The rain softened into a steady drizzle. The power returned with a sudden brightness that filled every corner of the house, restoring its polished, picture-perfect appearance. Everything looked exactly as it should. Modern, complete, impressive. Lakshmi stood up quietly and turned toward the kitchen, slipping back into the rhythm she had grown used to. "Wait!" Raghavan's voice stopped her mid-step. She turned, surprised not by the word but by the tone. There was no urgency in it, no instruction, just honesty. "I think," he began, searching for words that had taken years to surface. "We built the house." He paused, looking at her, not past her, not through her, but at her, but forgot to live in it. That night did not transform everything. There was no sudden resolution, no dramatic shift, but something small and real began. They sat at the dining table together. No television played in the background, no phones interrupted the moment. Just two plates, two people, and a conversation that moved slowly at first, like something relearning how to exist. They spoke about old days, about small forgotten memories and things that didn't matter anymore, and yet meant everything. In the days that followed, life didn't become perfect, but it became present. Raghavan began returning home earlier, not always, but often enough to be noticed. They shared tea on the balcony, watching the sky change colors as the evening settled in. They argued over small things, what to cook, what to watch, what to fix, and found themselves smiling in the middle of it. They laughed, sometimes for no reason at all, and slowly, almost gently, the house began to feel different. Not because anything in it changed, but because the people inside it finally did. Months later, a neighbor visited. She walked through the rooms, taking in the space, the light, the quiet warmth that now lingered in the air. She smiled and said, "Such a beautiful home." Lakshmi smiled back, and this time there was no pause, no hesitation, because now it wasn't just something people said. It was something she finally felt. We spend years, sometimes entire lifetimes, building something we believe will secure us. A house, a permanent address, a place that proves we've made it. And in that pursuit, we give up things quietly. Time, conversations, moments that seem small when they happen, but irreplaceable once you're gone. Because we keep telling ourselves, not now, later. But life doesn't wait for later. It unfolds in the middle of everything we're too busy to notice. A house can be built with effort, discipline, and money. But a home? It is built with presence. So, build? Yes. Dream? Absolutely. But don't trade away the very life you're trying to secure. Because one day you might finally have a permanent address and realize you were never truly there. Maybe the real question was never, do you have a permanent address? Maybe it always was, does your life know where to find you? Because what's the point of having a place to return to if you were never present enough to belong there? This is AV Speaks, reminding you that sometimes the life we are busy building is quietly waiting for us to live it. Until next time, stay present, stay real, and don't just build a life, be there for it. Until next time, take care, good night.